Hey, it is Lindsay de Swart. How are you doing? Welcome to the Midlife Freedom Podcast. It's been ages since I did a solo episode. And while I've been making YouTube videos, a solo episode on this podcast is just a completely different thing. So I just wanted to jump on today. And today I'm going to share with you some of the results because I've been doing quite a few interviews with members of our community or the Midlife Freedom community. And I've been doing quite a few interviews with them just to kind of help them, unstick challenges and to see how we can get them moving. And some really interesting things have come up that I want to share with you, tied together with a lot of personal work that I've been doing about, sort of energy and energy clearing and blocks. And there's some really interesting stuff going on at the moment. Now, if you've been with me for any amount of time, you will know that I am quite spiritual and I do a lot of energy work. And I used to do shamanic work and help people clear energy blocks. And I can't help but tie that into the work that I do now. So what's so interesting now, though, is the energy feels so much lighter. Now, it's entirely up to you how much you want to go into this, how much you want to believe. And it might just be that you're actually sensing it as well. And if you are, then this is all going to fit into place. But what I found to be really interesting, kind of slightly astonishing actually as well, is how much it's shifted how quickly people can move when they've got a problem. So, for example, one of the ladies, actually I'm thinking of somebody in particular, one of the ladies I've been talking to, she was really struggling with how to leave her 9 to 5 so she could grow her own business. And the interesting thing about that is she, obviously I asked her the question so she could, unravel her thoughts. Because obviously everything that we say is basically, we're putting our thoughts into words. And as we put our thoughts into words, what I listen out for, because of, the work I do, is I listen out to where we're holding ourselves back with our own words. Because we almost let's say, make a prison, make a cage for yourself within your own words, because you put up these barriers and these blocks. And as you do that, some of the blocks that you think you're facing and are really difficult to get round or get over, actually, if you change your wording, these blocks come down. So we worked with her. And first of all, she said that she had a real limiting belief about how she could start her practice. She wanted to do reflexology, how she could start her reflexology practice, because she wanted to practice it out of her home because she had a home area that she could use. But she had some specific beliefs about, why it wouldn't be acceptable to do it in her home. Anyway, so just based on where I live, because obviously I work out of my study in my home, and I gave her an example of my neighbour who's done pretty much exactly what she wanted to do. And I showed her my neighbourhood and I went, how different is that from your neighbourhood? And she went, well, it's not. So I went, okay. And this lady across the road from me runs a really successful practice and she's fully booked. So how does that belief feel? And she just went, oh, well, that's not true. I went, okay, cool. So that was one thing. That was just obviously a circumstantial evidence. But it was a fine example of, if you believe something, it doesn't necessarily mean it's true, which I know is so frustrating because you're like, well, that's what I thought was the case. And it isn't always. So the same thing with your words. Okay. So, that was an example of showing her something that actually, right, well, that's clearly not true. But then with your words as well. So, and she won't mind if I use it as an example because we talked about this. And so with your words, and this is so common, I promise you, you will create barriers in your way. So, for example, it's called a double bind. So you say, when I do this, then this is able to happen, or this can't happen until that has happened. And then the greatest thing that you can do to actually release that is to unravel it and say, hold on a minute, is that really true? So, for example, she said, I can't start my business, everything, until I've got my confidence up as a practitioner, and then also until I've sorted out my website. I went, these aren't the same problems. Let's separate these entirely, because starting to get your confidence up as a practitioner has nothing to do with your website. And starting to create your website has nothing to do with your confidence as a practitioner. You could ask somebody to create a website for you. You could pay or ask anybody to make a website for you. And that would have nothing to do with your confidence level as a practitioner, for example. And if you wanted to then, so that's one issue, that's like one road. But then if you wanted to raise your experience or your confidence rather as a practitioner, then you just need people to practice on. And the more people you practice on, the more you will realize that either you are confident and you want to do it, or more to the point that even if you are confident, you still don't want to do it. Or you might go, actually, this is the best thing that's ever happened. I am so excited. I can't wait to do this. In which case you'll go and do it anyway. So there's a couple of ways that our language identifies our belief systems. Now, the other way, which is one that takes a bit more practice, or somebody even external, is, and this is kind of a little bit sort of energetic, so stick with me on this one. It's either going to really vibe with you or you'll just go, blah, blah. I don't think so. Okay, so just if you're thinking about, let's just say starting a business, because that's what I speak to so many people about. It could even be starting a diet. That's a big topic in midlife, or starting a new exercise program. It's not one I, talk about that often, but it's a big topic in midlife. Okay, so if you're thinking about that and you're thinking of all the reasons why you can, but also all the reasons why you can't, so obviously the reasons why you can't are bigger than the reasons why you can, because otherwise you'd have done it by now. So if the reasons that you aren't doing something, you haven't got started, or you believe you can't, just think about that. I just want you to close your eyes for a second. And as you close your eyes, just see how it feels. And this might take some time. You might go, I don't see anything. But you might actually notice if there is any energy around this. So, for example, some people will say things like, well, it feels like, there's a block in front of my eyes, or I can see, it feels like really constricting, or it feels heavy. You will notice the energy change. If you give yourself a moment, obviously you've got to be in a relaxed state, and, you can't do this while you're driving. Obviously, don't close your eyes when you're driving. But sit in a relaxed state, and as you think about whatever it is that you believe is stopping you doing what you're doing, see how it feels. And closing your eyes obviously enables you to kind of tune into your inner voice, your inner vision, and see if there is a block of some sort in there. And then I invite you to play with that block, which I know sounds really crazy. So imagine that you've almost got like a remote control in your hand, an energetic remote control that's actually going to go into your head, right? And so if you get that, a vision of anything or a feeling of anything, just imagine with your remote control, you can turn that down. You can, if it feels like, you go really cold or something, imagine with your remote control, you're turning the temperature up. Or if it feels like it's really heavy, with your remote control in your mind's eye, imagine that you take the weight like off your shoulders. And you can allow that, and then, just loosen up your shoulders and see how you feel. So those are just a couple of examples. But basically, play with the energy that is stopping you. Because when you start to play with the energy, it allows your beliefs to change. Now, I know people say, but hold on a minute, don't people in therapy for this for years? And can it really be that easy? But with the energy the way it is right now, and I don't know if this is even your vibe, but energy right now is so vibrant and so fast moving that it's become a lot more, let's say, accessible for more people to work with. So I find that if I'm working with clients, I don't need to go way back into their history anymore, because it's all moving so fast that we can actually start to change things way more easily by tuning into the current energy. And then as soon as you set the intention for releasing stuff, it can actually start to release. And I have never known energy to move as fast as it does now. So I invite you to play with that, because it does involve some, I want to say manipulation. What I want you to really understand, but I haven't really spoken about it on the podcast for a while because I've been trying to be very sensible. But what I'm really fascinated by is the speed at the speed that people can change their thoughts and their belief systems by literally manipulating energy and manipulating your words. So if you were to say, I can't do this until this has happened, if you actually unravel those words and put in the question of, is that really true? If you divide those two up, so if B can't happen until A has happened, how can you unravel that? So B is no longer dependent on A, because the two can exist independently. So, for example, I can't start my business until I've created a website. The two actually aren't related. Or I can't start my business until I've got somewhere else to practice. The two don't need to be related. Or I can't go on that diet until I've finished doing this course. The two aren't necessarily related. Because if you've got the intention of doing a course, chances are you've already set, like, for example, to do a diet or improve your nutrition, the chances are you've already set the intention that you're going to improve your nutrition. So what do? You can like cut down sugar, or you can cut out fizzy drinks, or you can cut down on alcohol, or whatever. There are moves that you can make, which means that you can start even if you haven't finished the course. So another example, and then there's a lady that I was speaking to today about, again, starting her business. And she was in a coaching program, and she said, well, when I finish this coaching program, then I will start marketing my business. And I was like, okay, if you're marketing your business on YouTube, for example, or Instagram, it's going to take time. And you know enough already, and you want to build relationships with people on social media or you're on YouTube. So start doing those already, because people need to get to know you. And nobody's looking at the qualifications to see, has she qualified yet or hasn't she? Nobody's looking at that. So what you want to do is start one whilst the other one is in process, because they aren't dependent on each other. You getting new clients in your business may be dependent in the long run, potentially, on you having a YouTube channel or having a website, but you've got other ways to go and find new clients, or put yourself out there, or go and work with a local practice, or go and work with a local business, or for a local charity, or whatever it might be. You can't use the excuse anymore of, well, I need to wait for, my YouTube or my Instagram or my website. Those are just excuses. And right now, as I say, the energy is moving so fast that the quicker you can separate those two, the quicker you can get going. Because once you get going, then you don't have the blocks in the way. Once you are a confident practitioner, then the website won't seem like such a hitch. Or if it is, then you get somebody else to do it for you. Or if you are confident in your new coaching business, you've got all of these new things to talk about on YouTube. So it's much easier to make your YouTube content. So the upshot of all of this is energy is moving really fast. So make the most of it and jump onto it and see how it can benefit you. So you can unravel your words by seeing how they are actually two separate things. They're not all tied up together. And energetically, imagine if the two are tied together, that you start to untie them. You can visualize untying them. You can visualize like cutting the cords. There are so many ways that you can use your mind to play beneficial tricks on you, rather than using them as a setback or a hindrance, because they just don't need to be. So today's podcast episode, I know it's just a real quickie. I haven't been on as a solo episode for a while, and I've missed you. So I wanted to share this little insight with you, because the more I speak to people, the more I realize that we are in this absolutely exciting, fast-moving, energetic time. And obviously there'll always be people who say, but the world's in chaos, and the world is in chaos, but the world is also in chaos because the energy is moving so fast. So jump on it, make the most of it, and really utilize that, because it's for your benefit. Okie dokes. If you're returning to the podcast, this is now on YouTube as well as Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So I'm not sure which one you're checking it out on, but thank you for being here. So appreciate it. There are links to be able to find out more information, other podcast episodes, and also to download some of my free gifts now. And one of those is finding your next steps. What are your next options after the 9 to 5, if it's something that you want to move on from, or that you want to create something on the side ready to grow for retirement? Because guess what? The two aren't all independent. You can do something on the side at the same time as having your 9 to 5. And it's all perfectly doable. Don't talk yourself into an excuse. My free guide will really help you to do that. But the links are under the show notes. So please go and check that out. I would love for you to post comments. Let me know what you think. It's great to see you again. And I hope you enjoyed the episode. And please subscribe, leave a comment, or follow, depending on which platform you're on. I'm so pleased to be back. Okay, take care. Thanks for listening. Bye.